Welcome to The Explainer. You know, a lot of us think of bullying as just a part of growing up, right? Something kids have to go through. But what if the data told a completely different and much more serious story? Today, we're digging into a massive global survey that pulls back the curtain on the true scale of bullying and its hidden, devastating costs. Okay, so first things first. Before we can even get into the numbers, we all need to be on the same page about what we're actually talking about. Because this isn't about a simple disagreement in the schoolyard. This study uses a very specific definition of bullying.
And the keywords here are intent and power imbalance. This isn't a fight between equals. It's a deliberate act, whether it's physical or psychological, where someone with more power, more influence is targeting someone with less. That power difference is absolutely crucial. That's what makes it bullying.
So we all have this gut feeling that bullying is a problem, but how big of a problem is it, really? Well, this study gives us the hard numbers. Researchers looked at data from the Global School-Based Student Health Survey, and we're talking over 100,000 middle schoolers across 19 different countries. All right, let's dive into this data because the sheer scale of the issue is the first major finding, and honestly, the numbers are pretty startling. 34.2%. Let that number sink in for a second. That's the overall average. More than a third of all the students they talked to said they were bullied in just the last month. To put that in perspective, picture your average classroom. That means 1 out of every 3 kids in that room is experiencing this. But here's the thing. That global average, it kind of hides the real story. The difference from one country to another is massive. I mean, look at this. In Tajikistan, it's under 8%, but in Zambia, it's over 60%. It just goes to show you, while bullying is a global problem, where you live plays a huge role in what you experience. The study also found something else that was pretty consistent across most countries. While the gap isn't huge, boys were a bit more likely to report being the victims of bullying than girls were. But you know, the numbers only tell part of the story. The real damage, the thing that lasts, it's often invisible. It's the profound effect that bullying has on a young person's mental health. And wow, the contrast here is it's stark. Look at that jump. When you ask students about feeling sad or hopeless for long periods, the rate for bullied students is dramatically higher. It shows a really clear and really worrying link between being victimized and serious mental distress. And this is where it gets incredibly severe. When the researchers asked about suicidal thoughts, the rate for bullied students was more than double that of their peers. This isn't just about feeling down anymore. We're talking about a direct link to a life-threatening mental health crisis. And this wasn't some isolated finding. In places like Venezuela, the risk is just staggering. Being bullied made a student almost 2.5 times more likely to think about suicide. Just let that sink in for a moment. The trauma from being bullied starts this domino effect that goes way beyond mental health. This study also found a powerful connection between being a victim and engaging in some pretty risky behaviors. And you can see a really clear pattern here. Bullied students reported much higher rates of substance use. We're talking 31.6% using tobacco, another 31.6% using alcohol, and 13.3% using other drugs. It paints this really troubling picture of kids who might be trying to cope with trauma in really dangerous ways. Now, this is a super important point to make. The study shows a really, really strong link, a correlation. But it's a snapshot in time, so it can't prove which one causes the other. It's kind of that classic chicken and egg question. Does bullying lead to the risky behavior, or are kids who are already at risk more likely to get targeted? We just don't know for sure. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and put all these pieces together. When you look at all this data from tens of thousands of kids all over the world, what's the big takeaway here? Well, the evidence is pretty overwhelming. Bullying is not some harmless rite of passage. It's not something kids just get over. What we're looking at is a serious, global public health issue with measurable and, frankly, devastating consequences for a young person's mental and physical health. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most critical question of all. The data proves the problem is real, it's global, and it's serious. So, whose job is it to fix it? The research makes it pretty clear that this can't just fall on one person or one group. It's a shared responsibility for schools, for parents, and for whole communities to step up and protect their most vulnerable members.